Hey guys, tonight we journey far from the familiar, back through the swirling mist of time to the ancient Korean peninsula, specifically to the ambitious and often embattled kingdom of Silla in the 7th century. Picture yourself not in your comfortable bed, but perhaps standing on a windswept hill overlooking a landscape of rugged mountains and fertile valleys, the air carrying the distant scent of pine and wood smoke, and the faint, unsettling echo of war drums. This is the world that will be shaped by a truly remarkable woman, Queen Seondeok. Now, if you, with your modern sensibilities and a perhaps understandable attachment to things like reliable plumbing and not being suddenly conscripted into a border skirmish, were plunked down into 7th century Silla, well, let's just say your chances of seamlessly blending in, let alone surviving the intricate court politics or a surprise attack from a neighboring kingdom, would be entertainingly slim. Your fancy smartphone, for instance, would probably just get you accused of practicing some rather advanced witchcraft and subsequently used as a very confusing and ultimately disappointing paperweight by a local magistrate. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And please do drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. I love knowing how far these ancient tales travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself born into a land of breathtaking beauty and almost perpetual conflict. This is the kingdom of Silla, nestled in the southeastern corner of the Korean peninsula, a realm of forested mountains that march down to a rugged coastline, a land of distinct seasons and a resilient, hard-working people. But Silla is not alone. This is the heart of the Three Kingdoms period. To your north and west loom two powerful, often aggressive, rivals Goguryeo, a vast militaristic empire stretching into Manchuria, famed for its mounted warriors and formidable fortresses, and Baekje, a sophisticated maritime kingdom to your west, known for its refined arts, its strong navy, and its frequent opportunistic alliances with whomever seemed most likely to help them put a dent in Silla's ambitions. The map of the Korean peninsula at this particular juncture in history looks less like a stable political diagram and more like three very irritable, heavily armed badgers in a sack, all constantly jockeying for position and enthusiastically trying to bite each other's ankles. It's a dangerous neighborhood, to say the least. Silla, in these early decades of the 7th century, is a kingdom on the rise. Historically, it was perhaps considered the weakest or most isolated of the three, but through a combination of shrewd diplomacy, military reforms, and a unique, highly centralized social structure, it's beginning to assert itself. Its people are known for their discipline, their artistic skills, and a fierce determination to not only survive, but to eventually dominate. Daily life for the ordinary folk, the farmers, the artisans, the fishermen, is one of hard labor, dictated by the seasons and the demands of a hierarchical society. They cultivate rice in the narrow valleys, fish the coastal waters, and owe loyalty and service to the nobles and the distant king in the capital. That capital, your home if you are of noble birth, is Seorabiol, later known as Gyeongju. In this era, before it blossoms into the glittering metropolis of Silla's golden age, Seorabiol is already a significant walled city, a bustling center of politics, religion, and commerce, nestled in a wide, fertile basin. Its skyline is dominated by the wooden palaces of the royals and the increasingly grand residences of the powerful aristocratic clans. You might see convoys of bullock carts laden with tribute from the provinces, or groups of stern-faced warriors, their armor glinting, heading out on patrol. The fashion for the Silla elite, even in these earlier times, involves a surprising amount of gold. Intricate gold crowns, earrings, belts, and ornaments have been found in their tombs, showcasing astonishing metalworking skills and a distinct, almost otherworldly artistic style. So much gold, in fact, that local magpies were probably their biggest, most persistent fashion critics and most enthusiastic, if uninvited, jewel thieves, constantly trying to make off with anything that sparkled. The political climate is perpetually tense. Internally, powerful, noble families vie for influence, their loyalties sometimes shifting like sand. Externally, as we've noted, the threat from Goguryeo and Baekje is ever present. Raids across the borders are common, sometimes escalating into full-scale wars that demand immense resources and sacrifice. Strong, decisive leadership is not just desirable, it's essential for Silla's very survival. Foreign relations between the three kingdoms, you observe, mostly consist of sending elaborately polite but latently threatening envoys to each other's courts, occasionally exchanging high-ranking hostages or princesses in dubious attempts to secure fragile peace treaties, and, more often than not, enthusiastically invading each other's turnip fields or strategically important mountain passes with a little provocation. Underpinning this entire society is Silla's unique and incredibly rigid social hierarchy, the Gulpum Jido, or bone rank system. This hereditary caste system dictates almost every aspect of a person's life, from the government office they can hold, to the clothes they can wear, the size of their house, the color of their carriage, even whom they can marry. At the very apex of this system is the sacred bone rank, the Songol, a tiny, exclusive elite of purest royal blood on both paternal and maternal lines, from whom alone the monarch can be chosen. This deeply ingrained system provides stability, but also limits social mobility and concentrates power in the hands of a few select families. Trying to explain the concept of modern representative democracy to a high-ranking Silla noble of this period would be like trying to explain the internet to a particularly skeptical and tradition-bound squirrel. Everyone gets a say in who rules, even the Soradason farmers and the merchants? Preposterous. What would they know of statecraft? Spiritually, Silla is a land in transition. Ancient shamanistic beliefs and nature worship still hold sway in the countryside and among the common folk. Confucian ideals of social order, filial piety, and good governance are increasingly influential, particularly among the educated elite, filtering in from contact with China. And Buddhism, introduced to Silla a century or so earlier, is steadily gaining prominence. Not yet the all-encompassing state ideology it will become under Queen Seondeok, but already a significant spiritual and cultural force, with monasteries being established and scriptures studied. It's a historical fact that the three kingdoms of Korea, Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla, dominated the Korean peninsula and parts of Manchuria from roughly the 1st century BCE to the 7th century CE, each developing distinct cultures while constantly vying for supremacy through warfare and diplomacy. Historians still argue with considerable academic vigor about the exact level of Silla's military strength and its diplomatic sophistication relative to its powerful neighbors. Goguryeo and Baekje, in the period just before. Queen Seondeok's father, King Jinpyong, ascended the throne, and during his long reign, was Silla truly a plucky, perpetually endangered underdog, constantly scrambling to survive? Or was it already a formidable, strategically astute, and highly resilient power, cleverly playing its rivals against each other and quietly laying the groundwork for its future dominance? The truth is likely a complex tapestry woven from both threads. But into this volatile, hierarchical, and fascinating world, a princess named Deokman will be born, a woman destined to shatter expectations and steer her kingdom through perilous times. You, Princess Deokman, are born into the very apex of this rigidly structured Silla society, into the heart of the royal Kim clan, a member of that most exclusive and revered category, the sacred bone, the Seongol. Your father is King Jinpyong, a monarch who will go on to rule Silla for over half a century, a remarkably long reign in such turbulent times. Your mother is Queen Maya, herself of impeccable royal lineage. To be Seongol means your blood is considered the purest, untainted by intermarriage with lower aristocratic ranks, at least on the direct royal succession line. This status alone carries with it an almost mystical authority, a divine right to rule. because only a Seonggol individual can wear the heavy golden crown of Silla. Being a sacred bone princess in 7th century Silla meant you were absolutely top-tier royalty. Your blood was so blue, it probably shimmered in the sunlight with a faint, ethereal glow. It also meant, practically speaking, that your potential dating pool was roughly the size of a very small, very exclusive, and possibly slightly stagnant puddle. And pretty much everyone in that puddle was, in some way or another, your cousin. The exact year of your birth is subject to some historical debate, as ancient records can be frustratingly vague, but it's generally placed in the latter part of the 6th century or the very early 7th century. What is critical, and what will shape your entire destiny, is the fact that your father, King Jinpyong, despite his long reign and several consorts, fails to produce a surviving son of undisputed Seonggol rank who can succeed him. He has sons, yes, but they are either from concubines of lower bone rank, or they die young, or for other complex dynastic reasons. They are not considered suitable heirs according to the incredibly strict Seonggol criteria for kingship. This shortage of Seonggol males becomes the pivotal factor that will eventually open an unprecedented path for you. Your childhood, as a princess of the highest rank, is spent within the precincts of the royal palace in Seorabeol. While historical records are sparse on the specific details of royal princesses' upbringing, you can imagine a life of immense privilege, yet also one of significant constraint and expectation. You would have been surrounded by attendants, ladies-in-waiting, and eunuchs, your days governed by intricate court etiquette. Your education, while perhaps not as formally structured as that of a potential male heir, would likely have included instruction in Confucian classics emphasizing virtues like filial piety and loyalty, Silla history and traditions, and perhaps Buddhist teachings, which were increasingly gaining favor within the royal family. The Silla bone rank system, the Galpam Jido, was so extraordinarily strict and pervasive, it probably dictated the maximum number of auspiciously embroidered silk cushions you were allowed to recline upon during your afternoon poetry lessons, all depending on your great-aunt's second cousin's precise standing within the sacred bone substrata. Bureaucracy and protocol, even in ancient kingdoms, always find a way. The most famous, and quite possibly historically grounded, legend associated with your youth is the story of the peonies. As the tale goes, Emperor Taizong of the powerful Tang dynasty in China, with whom Silla maintained a complex and often subservient diplomatic relationship, sent a gift to King Jinpyong peony seeds accompanied by a beautiful painting of peony flowers in full bloom. As the court admired the painting, you, still a young princess, astutely observed that despite their beauty, the painted flowers were depicted with no butterflies or bees hovering around them. From this, you predicted that while the peonies grown from the seeds would indeed be lovely, they would possess no fragrance. And so it proved to be. This anecdote, widely recounted in historical texts like the Samguk Sagi, History of the Three Kingdoms, and the Samguk Yusa Memorabilia of the Three Kingdoms, serves to highlight your extraordinary intelligence, your keen powers of observation, and your almost preternatural insight from a young age. Little Princess Dukeman basically looked at an exquisite imperial flower painting and, with the discerning eye of a seasoned botanical critic, essentially said, very pretty. Lovely colors, excellent brushwork, but no bees, no butterflies. This flower is clearly all show and no smell. My friends, she was the original art aficionado with a very practical and apparently very accurate nose for floral aromatics. Other legends, perhaps more apocryphal, paint similar pictures of a thoughtful, wise, and unusually perceptive young woman. One such quirky tidbit recorded in the Samguk Yusa speaks of your mother, Queen Maya, experiencing an auspicious dream before your birth. In this dream, a golden miniature Buddha descended from the heavens and entered her womb. This was interpreted by court seers and monks as a profoundly favorable omen, suggesting that the child to be born was destined for great things and would have a special connection to the Buddhist faith, perhaps even being a reincarnated bodhisattva. Such stories, whether historically factual or later embellishments, serve to build a narrative of destiny around you, legitimizing your eventually unconventional path to power. As a Seondeok female, your expected role in life would typically have been to be a pawn in the intricate game of dynastic alliances, married off to a high-ranking noble of suitable bone rank, either within Silla to consolidate power, or perhaps even to a foreign prince to seal a treaty. Your life would have been one of ritual duties, producing heirs preferably male to continue the lineage, and wielding influence indirectly through your husband or sons. The idea of a woman reigning in her own right was, at this point, almost unthinkable. Yet the unique circumstances of your father's reign, specifically the lack of a suitable Seondeok male heir, begin to slowly, inexorably, push you towards a destiny that will shatter Silla tradition. The bone rank system, this Galpam Jado, is the unyielding framework of your world. It's not just about royalty. Below the Seondeok are the Jingol, or true bone aristocracy, who can hold high office but cannot become king usually. Then come the various head ranks, numbered 6 down to 1, each with strictly prescribed rights, responsibilities, and limitations. Head rank 6 is the highest of the non-royal aristocracy, often highly educated and influential in administration, but forever barred from the top echelons of power reserved for the true bone and sacred bone. Below them are the commoners, and at the very bottom, the slaves. This system is designed to maintain social order and ensure the purity and dominance of the ruling lineages. Imagine trying to get a promotion in Silla. It's not about your performance reviews or your innovative ideas for improving chariot wheel efficiency. It's, what's your bone rank son head? Rank 5. You say, well, I'm afraid the regional deputy assistant scroll unfurler position is the absolute glass ceiling for your lineage. Perhaps your great-great-grandson might aspire to chief inspector of royal kimchi if he marries exceptionally well within his rank. Now, about those chariot wheels. Historians still engage in considerable scholarly debate about the precise criteria, permeability, and evolution of the Seondeok's rank itself. Was it an absolutely rigid, unalterable bloodline definition based on meticulously kept genealogies? Or could political necessity, a reinterpretation of lineage, or perhaps even a particularly powerful king's decree, occasionally allow for individuals whose ancestry was slightly less pure on all sides to be considered, or elevated to Seondeok status, especially when the direct line was threatened? This very debate becomes critically important when considering the circumstances that led to your own, and later your cousin Jinduk's, accession to the throne. For now, as Princess Dukman, you grow up within the gilded cage of sacred bone privilege, acutely aware of your high status, the expectations upon you, and perhaps with your keen intellect, increasingly aware of the looming succession crisis that might just change everything. As your father, King Jinpyong, approaches the end of his exceptionally long and eventful reign. He ruled Silla from 579 to 632 CE, a remarkable 53 years. The question of who will inherit the golden crown becomes the most pressing, whispered, and potentially explosive issue within the palace walls and among the powerful noble clans of Sirabiol. The Silla kingdom, for all its rising strength and sophisticated culture, now faces a genuine succession crisis, one that will pave the way for an anomaly, a deviation from centuries of tradition, the ascension of a woman to the throne. The heart of the crisis, as we've seen, lies in that most exclusive of Silla's social strata, the sacred bone. The Seondeok Muts, King Jinpyong, despite his many years and various royal consorts, has no surviving son of undisputed Seondeok rank to follow him. This is the critical juncture. The bone rank system, which has for so long dictated the orderly transfer of power, now presents a seemingly intractable problem. There are, of course, males of true bone, Jingol rank, powerful nobles, distant royal cousins, perhaps even sons of the king from non-Seonggol queens who might eye the throne with ambition. But the precedent, the very spiritual and political legitimacy of Silla kingship, is deeply intertwined with the Seonggol lineage. To bypass this, to place a Jinggol on the throne while a Seonggol, even a female one, still exists, would be a radical and potentially destabilizing move. The decision ultimately rests, at least in formal procedure, with the Hwabak, the Council of Nobles. This influential body, comprised of high-ranking aristocrats likely all true-bone themselves, has the traditional authority to deliberate on matters of great state importance, including the selection or approval of a new monarch, particularly in ambiguous circumstances. You can imagine the intense, secretive debates within their council chambers. Factions would form, old rivalries might surface, and the future direction of the kingdom would hang in the balance. Some nobles, conservative by nature or perhaps seeing an opportunity to increase their own clan's power by backing a more pliable male candidate even if of slightly less impeccable bone rank, would undoubtedly have argued vehemently against the idea of a female ruler. What about military leadership, they might ask? Could a queen command the respect of the generals and the fierce Silla warriors in the constant wars against Goguryeo and Baekje? Could she maintain authority over the often fractious powerful clans? Could she ensure the continuation of the royal line in a way that upheld tradition? King Jinpyong, in his final years, likely spent many a sleepless night pondering these very questions, probably looking around at his various male relatives and thinking, right, there's cousin Byomin, who's more interested in competitive archery and the quality of his new saddle than in, say, tax policy. And then there's nephew Chilsuk, whose main qualification for kingship seems to be his truly impressive ability to nap through important state meetings. Deokman, my astute daughter, suddenly looks like a remarkably sensible option. On the other side, arguments would have been made in your favor. Princess Deokman, your Seonggol status is impeccable. Your lineage directly from the king and queen. This carries immense weight. To ignore the purest bloodline available would be to risk offending the ancestral spirits and undermining the very foundation of royal legitimacy. Furthermore, your renowned intelligence and wisdom, exemplified by legends like the Peony story, would have been a powerful asset. Perhaps your father himself, recognizing your capabilities and seeing no better alternative, actively groomed you for succession and lobbied the Hwabek on your behalf. The historical record is not entirely clear on the precise machinations, but the outcome is the council. Whether through conviction, political expediency, or a lack of a more compelling Seonggol male, makes the groundbreaking decision. You, Princess Deokman, will inherit the throne. This decision is nothing short of revolutionary for Silla, and indeed for much of East Asia at the time. While there had been powerful queen regents or queen dowagers in other cultures, a woman reigning in her own name as a sovereign queen was exceptionally rare. It's a testament to your unique qualifications, the peculiarities of the Silla bone rank system, and perhaps the sheer desperation of the succession crisis. And so, in the year 632 CE, upon the death of your father, you ascend the throne. Imagine your coronation, the solemn rituals, steeped in ancient Silla tradition and infused with Buddhist ceremony, unfold within the grand halls of the palace in Seorabeol. You are arrayed in the magnificent, heavy robes of Silla royalty, perhaps wearing one of those iconic, intricate golden crowns that symbolize kingship. The assembled nobles, the high-ranking monks, the officials of the court, all bow before you. The air is thick with incense, the sound of chanting, the murmur of anticipation, and, undoubtedly, a fair bit of nervous tension. You are proclaimed Queen Seondeok, the name itself, often interpreted as meaning something akin to virtuous and illustrious queen, is chosen to convey both your rightful authority and your noble character. The weight of the kingdom, its future, its very survival in a hostile world, now rests squarely upon your shoulders. Imagine the royal couturiers and crown makers having a minor panic. A queen. but all our most majestic coronation robes are tailored for distinguished gentlemen with impressive beards and a commanding swagger. This will require a whole new paradigm of regal bling. And where, pray tell, does one elegantly position the ceremonial sword on a female monarch's regalia without it looking awkward? The challenges are immediate and immense. You are a woman in a man's world, a queen in a kingdom accustomed to kings. Skepticism and opposition, both overt and covert, are almost certain. Powerful nobles, particularly those from true-bone lineages who may have felt their own claims were overlooked, will be watching your every move, testing your resolve. Neighboring kingdoms, Goguryeo and Baekje, might see a female ruler as a sign of Silla's weakness, an opportunity to press their advantage. It's a historical fact that Queen Seondeok was Silla's first ever reigning queen, and one of the earliest officially recognized female sovereigns in the entirety of East Asian history. Her accession was largely made possible by the unique Silla bone rank system's absolute emphasis on sacred bone lineage for the monarch, which, in the critical absence of a male heir of that supreme rank, logically, if radically, allowed for a female to inherit the throne. For a quirky, perhaps apocryphal, tidbit surrounding this momentous occasion. Some legends suggest that as the Hwabeko Council deliberated and the kingdom held its breath, a divine sign or an auspicious omen appeared. Perhaps a comet trailing serenely across the night sky over Seorabeol, or a particularly profound prophetic dream experienced by a revered high monk. Such an event, interpreted by the court astrologers and religious leaders as clear heavenly endorsement of your candidacy, Princess Deokman, would have been invaluable in helping to sway any remaining reluctant nobles and solidify popular acceptance of such an unprecedented succession. It's like the Silla kingdom suddenly had a collective epiphany. Hang on a moment. These incredibly intelligent, high-ranking women of sacred bone status, they can do more than just look dignified at state banquets and excel at intricate embroidery. They could actually rule mind. Blown, pass the honey biscuits. I need to process this. Historians still vigorously debate the exact level and nature of the opposition Queen Seondeok faced immediately upon her accession. While some ancient sources, like the Samguk Sagi, tend to present a relatively smooth transition, emphasizing her impeccable Seonggol status and her father's likely careful preparations for her succession. Other interpretations, reading between the lines of historical accounts and considering the deeply patriarchal context of the era, infer that there must have been significant unease, if not outright covert resistance, from powerful conservative factions within the Silla nobility. These groups would have been deeply wary of a female ruler and perhaps actively sought to undermine her authority from the very beginning. The crown is yours, Queen Seondeok, but the path ahead is fraught with peril and uncertainty. Your reign has just begun. The golden crown of Silla now rests upon your head. Queen Seondeok, its intricate filigree cool against your brow, its weight a constant reminder of the immense responsibilities you've inherited. The coronation ceremonies, with their solemn pronouncements and ancient rituals, are over. The cheering, or perhaps the nervously expectant murmuring, of the crowds in Seorabeol has faded. Now, in the stark light of your first day as Silla's sovereign, you face the daunting reality of your position. You are not just a queen. You are an anomaly, a woman treading a path no Silla ruler has walked before. And the challenges, both from within your own court and from the ever-watchful enemies beyond your borders, are already beginning to gather like storm clouds. Your first and most immediate hurdle is the palpable skepticism, the unspoken and sometimes not so unspoken opposition from factions within your own powerful aristocracy. Remember those jingle, the true bone nobles. While they couldn't claim the throne themselves while a Seonggol like you existed, many of them wield enormous influence, command private armies, and harbor their own ambitions. Some, undoubtedly, are conservative traditionalists who genuinely believe that a woman is unsuited to the rigors of kingship. particularly the demanding role of military leadership in a kingdom perpetually at war. They might whisper in the shadowy corridors of the palace, their voices like dry leaves skittering across flagstones, questioning your ability to command fierce warriors or to make ruthless strategic decisions. A queen. They might murmur over their rice wine. Charming, of course. Excellent at embroidery, no doubt. But leading armies against the savage Bekje hordes. Preposterous. Your first day as queen probably feels less like a triumphant entry and more like walking into a state banquet where all the guests are stony-faced nobles who look like they've just been informed their favorite war elephant has eloped with a traveling acrobat. Others among the nobility might see your gender not as a weakness in itself, but as an opportunity to manipulate a supposedly less experienced or more pliable ruler, a chance to increase their own clan's power and wealth at the expense of the crown or rival factions. Court intrigue, you swiftly realize, is not just a dramatic flourish for storytellers, it's a daily reality. There are factions and sub-factions, complex webs of loyalty, ancient feuds, and new ambitions, all swirling around the throne. Keeping your footing in this slippery dance of power requires constant vigilance, a keen understanding of human nature, and a will of iron beneath a calm, regal exterior. Dealing with this kind of court intrigue is like playing some extraordinarily complicated 7th century version of 4D chess. Only some of the more ambitious chess pieces are actively trying to accidentally poison your ceremonial tea, or inadvertently leave a venomous snake coiled in your royal bedchamber. Standard Tuesday morning. Really? So, how do you... Oh, Queen Seondeok. Begin to establish your authority and navigate these treacherous waters. Firstly, you draw upon that renowned intelligence and wisdom that even the legends of your youth attest to. You are no naive princess. You are an astute observer of people in power. You make strategic appointments, placing individuals known for their loyalty and competence in key positions, while perhaps subtly sidelining those whose allegiance is suspect. You project an image of calm decisiveness, presiding over court rituals with impeccable grace and dignity, demonstrating that the kingdom remains stable and in capable hands. Your diplomatic approach to any internal dissenters who dare to voice their concerns too loudly might be a masterclass in regal deflection. Ah, Lord Grumpy Face, your concerns about the kingdom's preparedness are noted, and indeed most spirited. Perhaps your renowned expertise in fortification would be best utilized by personally inspecting and significantly upgrading our defenses on the most distant, perpetually fog-shrouded, and surprisingly snake-infested northern border. An extended tour, say, for the next few seasons, your dedication would be an inspiration to us all. It's a historical fact that one of the significant early challenges any Silla ruler faced, and particularly Queen Seondeok as the first female sovereign, was indeed managing the powerful aristocracy and countering skepticism regarding a woman's capacity to govern effectively, especially in the crucial domain of military affairs, a concern that Silla's numerous enemies would be all too eager to exploit. You also likely focus on initiatives that demonstrate your concern for the welfare of your people, perhaps easing tax burdens where possible, or promoting agricultural improvements. Such measures not only benefit the kingdom, but also help to build popular support, a valuable counterweight to any discontent among the nobles. Your royal suggestion box for the court nobles, one might imagine, probably has a very, very small slot for inserting complaints, and is strategically located directly above a deep, dark pit rumored to house the royal kennel's most exceptionally hungry and ill-tempered hounds. All constructive feedback is, of course, deeply valued. You'd announce with your most serene and unreadable royal smile, the weight of the crown is immense. There's the personal burden, the loneliness of ultimate authority, the constant awareness that the fate of your kingdom rests on your decisions. Every choice is scrutinized, every pronouncement analyzed for hidden meanings. You must be a symbol of stability, a source of inspiration, and a shrewd political operator, all at once. For a quirky tidbit, Legends or later embellishments might suggest that Queen Seondeok, in these challenging early days, employed rather subtle and unexpected methods to win over skeptical courtiers or outwit your political opponents. Perhaps you used your legendary observational skills, like those that saw through the scentless peony illusion, to quietly uncover nascent plots before they could gather momentum. Or maybe you used carefully orchestrated displays of royal piety or acts of unexpected personal generosity towards a key noble family to disarm potential critics and build a network of loyal supporters. Or perhaps, just perhaps, you had a particularly intimidating and regal glare that could silence a room full of grumbling old men with a single, well-aimed glance. Historians still engage in spirited debate about the true extent and the precise nature of the internal opposition Queen Seondeok actually faced during her early years on the throne. Were these challenges primarily from a few isolated, disgruntled hardliners who simply couldn't stomach the idea of a female ruler? Their influence ultimately limited. Or was there a broader, more systemic, and deeply entrenched resistance within the Silla power structure, a powerful conservative backlash that she had to overcome through sheer political acumen, careful alliance building, and an unwavering assertion of her Seonggol legitimacy? The surviving historical records, often written much later and with their own inherent biases, offer tantalizing clues but no definitive, universally accepted answer. What is clear is that your early reign, Queen Seondeok, is a period of profound testing, a time when your wisdom, your courage, and your right to rule are under constant, unblinking scrutiny. That unblinking scrutiny you face from within your own Silla court is mirrored, and perhaps even amplified, by the watchful eyes of your powerful neighbors. Having navigated the initial choppy waters of establishing your authority at home, your gaze, Queen Seondeok, must now turn outwards, particularly towards the colossal, sophisticated, and often rather intimidating Tang dynasty of China. Silla's relationship with Tang China is a delicate, high-stakes diplomatic dance, a constant balancing act between seeking vital support and preserving your kingdom's precious autonomy. And you, as Silla's new queen, must now lead this intricate choreography. The Tang dynasty, at this point in the 7th century, is arguably the most powerful and culturally dominant empire in East Asia, if not the world. Its capital, Chang'an, is a vast cosmopolitan metropolis, a center of learning, art, and immense military might. For a smaller kingdom like Silla, nestled precariously on the Korean peninsula and constantly fending off its aggressive rivals. Goguryeo and Baekje, Tang China represents both a potential existential threat and an indispensable, if sometimes overbearing, ally. Silla's relationship with Tang China is rather like having a very large, very powerful, and occasionally somewhat condescending older brother. You admire his strength. You covet his cool stuff. But you also live in constant, low-grade fear that he might suddenly decide to rearrange your entire bedroom, or indeed your entire kingdom, just because he feels like it. The primary reason for Silla to cultivate this alliance is, quite simply, survival. Goguryeo to the north and Baekje to the west are relentless threats. Tang China, with its vast armies and resources, is the only power in the region capable of tipping the balance. You need Tang as a counterweight, a powerful friend who can, if persuaded, provide military assistance or at least exert diplomatic pressure on your enemies. Beyond military considerations, Tang China is also a wellspring of cultural and technological advancement. Alliance with Tang offers Silla access to sophisticated administrative models, advanced agricultural techniques, exquisite art forms, and, importantly, deeper engagement with Buddhism, which is flourishing under Tang patronage. Silla students, monks, and artisans regularly make the long and perilous journey to Chang'an, eager to learn and bring back new knowledge and skills to enrich their homeland. These Silla students heading off to Tang China are like the original international exchange students, but on a mission of national importance. They aren't just there to learn a bit of calligraphy and sample the local street food. They are tasked with soaking up everything from military strategy and advanced irrigation techniques to the latest trends in Buddhist philosophy and the most effective ways to compose a suitably flattering poem to the Tang Emperor, all to be brought back and adapted for Silla's benefit. Your diplomatic approach, Queen Seondeok, is one of carefully calibrated deference and astute pragmatism. You dispatch regular tribute missions to the Tang court, bearing gifts of Silla's finest products, perhaps exquisite goldwork, finely woven rami cloth, prized ginseng, or skilled scholars and artisans. These missions are not merely symbolic gestures of goodwill. They are vital channels for communication, intelligence gathering, and negotiation. You request Tang assistance against Baekje and Goguryeo. You seek imperial recognition and support for your own rule. And you strive to present Silla as a loyal, valuable, and culturally sophisticated junior partner in the Tang worldview. It's a delicate performance. Sending tribute to the Tang Emperor is an art form in itself. Too little, your advisors might whisper, and they will perceive us as disrespectful, or worse, insignificant. Too much, and they will assume we are fabulously wealthy and therefore ripe for further exploitation, or even outright conquest. Perhaps we should send them 3 moderately impressive hunting falcons, a selection of our finest non-threatening poetry, and a very sincere handwritten scroll detailing exactly how shiny and magnificent we find the Emperor's new imperial hat this season. However, this alliance is fraught with peril. The Tang emperors, particularly the ambitious Emperor Taizong, view Silla as a tributary state, a vassal within their sphere of influence. There's a constant risk that Tang assistance will come with too many strings attached, that Silla's autonomy will be eroded, or that your kingdom will be drawn into Tang's own wider geopolitical conflicts. This tension comes to a head in a famous, and for you, deeply challenging diplomatic incident. It's a well-documented historical fact that Emperor Taizong of Tang, upon learning of your accession as a female ruler, expressed considerable skepticism. He openly questioned whether a woman could effectively govern Silla and maintain control, particularly given the kingdom's precarious military situation. He even went so far as to propose sending a Tang imperial prince to Silla to rule in your stead, or at least to assist you, a suggestion that was a profound insult and a direct threat to Silla's sovereignty. Emperor Taizong likely heard that Silla had a queen on the throne and thought to himself, with a patronizing imperial sigh, a woman trying to run a kingdom. How utterly quaint. They must be desperate. Perhaps they need a firm, masculine hand to guide them. My third cousin twice removed. Prince Dim Sum is currently at a loose end and quite enjoys bossing people about. He'd be perfect. Your response to this dangerous proposal, Queen Seondeok, is a masterpiece of diplomatic skill. You cannot afford to openly defy the mighty Tang Emperor, yet you cannot possibly accede to his demand. Through your envoys, you would have had to articulate Silla's position with extraordinary tact and firmness, perhaps emphasizing your legitimate Seonggol lineage, your competence perhaps subtly referencing those prophecies of your wisdom, and Silla's unwavering loyalty to the Tang alliance under your rule. You successfully deflect Taizong's helpful offer, preserving your throne and Silla's independence. Though the incident highlights the precariousness of your kingdom's position, you probably had a special, incredibly serene, dealing with condescending foreign dignitaries who think women can't rule. Smile reserved for such occasions. It looked beatific and understanding, but behind it, your mind was rapidly calculating exactly how many divisions of highly motivated Silla warriors it would take to politely, but firmly, re-educate any Tang princes who fancied a surprise vacation in Sirabiol with kingly ambitions. For a quirky tidbit, imagine the immense pressure on your Silla envoys dispatched to the glittering, overwhelmingly vast Tang capital of Chang'an. They would have to be individuals of immense learning, composure, and wit, capable of navigating the labyrinthine complexities of Tang court etiquette, where a misplaced word or an inappropriate gift could cause a major diplomatic incident. They'd also be tasked with gathering intelligence, observing Tang military strength and political currents, all while presenting an image of Silla as a cultured, reliable, and non-threatening ally. They were Silla's eyes, ears, and carefully chosen mouthpiece in the most important foreign capital they knew. Historians still engage in lively scholarly debate regarding Queen Seondeok's true long-term strategic intentions concerning the crucial alliance with Tang China. Was she genuinely seeking a stable, albeit subordinate, partnership primarily for Silla's immediate survival against the relentless pressures from Baekje and Goguryeo? Or was she a far more Machiavellian strategist, astutely and pragmatically using Tang military power as a temporary, but indispensable tool to achieve Silla's own deeply held, long-term ambition of eventually unifying the entire Korean peninsula under Silla's banner, always intending to maintain as much national independence and maneuverability as the volatile circumstances would permit? Perhaps she saw the Tang alliance not as an end in itself, but as a calculated risk, a dangerous but necessary gambit in a much larger game for regional supremacy. Your reign, Queen Seondeok, is marked by this constant, delicate dance with a colossal partner. A dance where a single misstep could mean disaster. That delicate, often nerve-wracking, diplomatic dance with Tang China is driven by a stark and ever-present reality: the relentless military pressure Silla faces from its immediate neighbors, the rival Korean kingdoms of Baekje and Goguryeo. While your envoys are engaged in sophisticated verbal sparring and strategic gift-giving in the distant Tang capital, back home on the borders of Silla, the situation is far more visceral and brutal. The clang of steel, the desperate cries of battle, and the pall of smoke from besieged fortresses are constant, unwelcome accompaniments to your reign. You, Queen Seondeok, must not only be a shrewd diplomat, but also the ultimate guarantor of your kingdom's defense against enemies who see your rule, and perhaps your gender, as an invitation to aggression. The Korean peninsula in the 7th century is a veritable tinderbox. The three kingdoms, Silla, Baekje, and Goguryeo, are locked in what often feels like a perpetual state of warfare. Truces are fragile. Alliances shift like desert sands, and border skirmishes can escalate into full-blown invasions with terrifying speed. Silla's national sport, it sometimes seems, isn't so much archery or traditional wrestling, but more a grim, ongoing contest of guess who's planning to invade us this week. And more often than not, the answer is Baekje. Baekje, your ambitious western neighbor, is a particularly persistent and dangerous thorn in Silla's side. Sharing a long, often ill-defined border, the two kingdoms are constantly battling for control of strategic territories, fertile river valleys, and vital mountain passes. Baekje, perhaps feeling squeezed between the growing power of Silla to its east and the mighty Goguryeo to its north, launches frequent and often devastating raids and invasions into Silla territory. They might be seeking to reclaim lands they believe were historically theirs, or simply to plunder resources and weaken a rival. Sometimes Baekje forms opportunistic alliances, perhaps with Goguryeo against Silla, or even with Yamato Japan, from across the sea, using Japanese mercenaries or naval support in their campaigns. The Silla Border Guard's unofficial motto probably goes something like, "The mountain scenery is undeniably picturesque. The pay is consistently terrible, and there's a roughly 70% chance that any suspicious rustling you hear in the bushes is not, in fact, a friendly local badger out for a stroll, but a heavily armed Baekje raiding party with territorial ambitions and a distinct lack of polite dinner invitations. Enjoy your shift and try not to get captured." To the north, the formidable kingdom of Goguryeo also poses a significant threat. While perhaps less immediately focused on Silla's heartland than Baekje during your early reign, Goguryeo is often preoccupied with its own monumental struggles against the Tang dynasty on its northern and western frontiers. It remains a powerful and aggressive military force. Goguryeo cavalry is renowned. Its fortresses are legendary, and any sign of weakness or distraction in Silla could invite a Goguryeo offensive aimed at seizing territory or extracting tribute. Your northern defenses must be constantly vigilant. Silla's military, therefore, is the bedrock of its survival. You have a standing army, organized and trained, though its exact size and composition during your reign are subjects of some historical discussion. The famed Hwarong, or flower youths, elite groups of young aristocratic men trained in martial arts, literature, and Buddhist ethics, are often depicted as key military leaders, though their primary role during this specific period, whether as active battlefield commanders or more as a source of future military and political leadership, is a nuanced topic. More certainly, Silla relies on a network of strategically placed mountain fortresses, often utilizing the rugged terrain to its advantage, to guard key approaches and serve as defensive strongholds. And crucially, Silla has capable and experienced generals, men like the soon-to-be legendary Kim Yushin, upon whose loyalty, skill, and courage your kingdom's defense heavily depends, and we'll certainly meet him in more detail later. Queen Seondeok, upon receiving yet another alarming battle report, might have sighed deeply and muttered to her attendants. So, Lord Grumpy Pants has managed to lose another vital fortress to those insufferable Bekji invaders. Send him a very strongly worded royal scroll, a copy of Basic Fortification for Absolute Beginners, and then dispatch an urgent message to General Kim Yushin telling him to warm up the royal war elephants. Or whatever our Silla equivalent of heavy-duty problem solvers is. This is getting tiresome. Your reign, Queen Seondeok, is marked by numerous, often desperate, military campaigns. Historical records, such as the Samguk Sagi, paint a grim picture of frequent enemy incursions. It's a stark historical fact that, during your rule, Silla faced a particularly severe series of attacks from Baekje. In one devastating period around 642 CE, Baekje forces, often led by their skilled general Gibek, managed to capture over 40 Silla fortresses along the western border. The fall of Dea Fortress Modern Hapshin was a particularly crushing blow, a strategic loss that threatened to open up the Silla heartland to further invasion. And it also resulted in a deep personal tragedy for Kim Chunchu, a key royal relative and future king, whose wife and daughter were killed there. These were times of profound crisis, testing your leadership and Silla's resilience to the absolute limit. As queen, you are the commander-in-chief, albeit one who does not personally ride into battle. Your role involves making the high-level strategic decisions where to deploy your forces, which fortresses to reinforce, when to negotiate and when to fight. You must appoint and trust your commanders, secure the resources needed to sustain the war effort, food, weapons, manpower, and, crucially, maintain the morale of your people and your army in the face of repeated setbacks and the constant threat of invasion. This is a particular challenge for a female ruler in an era where military prowess is so closely associated with masculinity. You must project an image of strength, resolve, and unwavering leadership, even when the news from the front is bleak. Baekje and Goguryeo, upon hearing that Silla was now ruled by a queen, likely looked at each other, rubbed their hands with glee, and thought, "A queen, you say? Excellent. This will be like taking candy from a... Oh, hang on a minute. She seems to have General Kim Yushin on her side, and a surprisingly determined army that's rather good at defending incredibly pointy mountain fortresses. Perhaps we'll just stick to raiding their turnip farms again this season instead. Less glory, but significantly fewer casualties. The psychological toll of these constant border wars on the ordinary people of Silla must have been immense. Imagine living with the perpetual fear that your village could be raided, your crops burned, your family members killed or captured. The call to arms would regularly take men away from their fields and families, disrupting agriculture and daily life. The cost in blood and treasure was enormous. Silla's defensive strategy often involved a clever use of its mountainous terrain. A healthy dose of, let's build this wall a little bit higher and hope for the best, and trying to ensure their signal fires and beacon systems were more reliable than the weather forecast, which, in a mountainous kingdom, was probably not saying much. For a quirky tidbit, Given the rugged landscape and the need for rapid communication to warn of enemy movements or coordinate defenses between far-flung mountain fortresses, Silla might have employed some rather ingenious, if unconfirmed, signaling methods beyond simple smoke signals or beacons. Perhaps they used specially trained messenger pigeons, or complex arrangements of kites with different colors and shapes, or even a system of polished bronze mirrors to flash signals across valleys on sunny days. Necessity, after all, is the mother of some truly inventive, and occasionally rather desperate, communication strategies. Historians still actively discuss and debate Queen Seondeok's direct personal influence on Silla's military strategy and operations during her reign. While she undoubtedly made the ultimate high-level decisions regarding war and peace, and was responsible for appointing her key generals, was she a hands-on military leader in any practical sense, poring over maps and dictating tactical deployments, or did she, wisely recognizing the conventions of her time and her own strengths, delegate most of the operational and tactical command to experienced military professionals like Kim Yushin, focusing her own considerable energies instead on the critical arenas of diplomacy, maintaining internal stability, and ensuring the kingdom's resources were effectively mobilized to support the war effort? It was likely a careful balancing act, leveraging her unique position and intellect to guide the ship of state through seas that were almost constantly stormy. Those relentless border wars and the constant threat of invasion from Baekje and Goguryeo undoubtedly consumed a vast amount of your energy and Silla's precious resources. Queen Seondeok. The defense of the realm is paramount, yet amidst this backdrop of military struggle and high-stakes diplomacy with Tang China, your reign is also remembered for a distinctly different focus, a compassionate concern for the welfare of your ordinary subjects. You understand that a kingdom's true strength lies not just in its armies and alliances, but in the well-being and loyalty of its people. And so, you turn your astute mind towards alleviating their burdens and fostering a sense of stability and justice within Silla. Life for the common Sillan peasant, farmer or artisan in the 7th century, is a far cry from the gilded halls of the Sirabial Palace. Their existence is one of unceasing toil, subject to the whims of nature, the demands of the state in the form of taxes and labor levies, and the ever-present shadow of war that could sweep away their meager harvests or conscript their sons. While your generals are busy playing their deadly game of Wakabakji on the western frontier, you, Queen Seondeok, seem to be keenly aware that a kingdom cannot truly conquer its external enemies if its own foundations are crumbling from within due to hunger and despair. You know the common refrain, a kingdom cannot truly fight, nor indeed can it compose suitably inspiring epic poetry about its glorious victories on an entirely empty stomach. You know, one of the most significant ways you demonstrate this concern, according to historical records like the Samguk Sagi, is through measures aimed at tax relief. In an agricultural society where the majority of the population lives off the land, the burden of taxation can be crushing, especially during times of poor harvest, drought, or when resources are being heavily diverted to military campaigns. You are credited with implementing policies to reduce these tax burdens, particularly for the poorest segments of society and during periods of acute hardship. This isn't just an act of benevolence, it's also a shrewd political move. A populace that feels its ruler cares for its welfare is more likely to be loyal, more willing to support the state in times of crisis, and less susceptible to the whispers of disgruntled nobles or foreign agitators. Your tax relief program for the truly impoverished probably involved a royal decree along the lines of, "Hear ye, hear ye." Good news for those of you whose worldly possessions currently consist of one leaky pot and a profound sense of impending doom. This year, by order of your magnificent and incredibly understanding queen, you only have to render unto the royal granaries most of your pitifully small rice harvest. Not all of it. Aren't I a far-sighted and remarkably generous monarch? The peasants, no doubt, were appropriately, if perhaps moderately, thrilled by this largesse. Beyond general tax relief, you also institute measures to directly aid the needy. This includes distributing grain from the royal granaries during famines, providing support for orphans, widows, the elderly, and those incapacitated by illness or injury. In a society with no formal state-run welfare system as we would understand it, these royal acts of charity are vital lifelines. They reinforce the image of the monarch as a compassionate protector of her people, a mother figure to the kingdom, fulfilling the Confucian ideal of benevolent rule. Imagine trying to explain one of your more ambitious welfare policies to a particularly grasping and self-interested Silla noble. Yes, indeed. Lord Pennypincher, it is my royal intention that we shall utilize a not insignificant portion of the royal treasury, the very treasury you were hoping might fund your delightful new duck pond, to ensure that the kingdom's orphans do not actually starve to death this winter. I know, it's a shocking, almost revolutionary concept. Do try to keep up with the times. Promoting agriculture is another key aspect of your welfare policies. A stable food supply is essential for a stable kingdom. While the rugged, mountainous terrain of Silla presents challenges for large-scale irrigation projects compared to some other ancient civilizations, any efforts to encourage better farming techniques, to bring new land under cultivation where feasible, or to ensure fair distribution of water resources would have been significant. Your agricultural improvement plan probably involved a lot of encouraging royal speeches about the noble virtues of conscientious turnip cultivation, and perhaps even a sternly worded royal decree against any marauding Baekje soldiers found to be carelessly trampling upon Silla's prize-winning and surprisingly patriotic radishes. Let it be known. The decree might thunder that any foreign soldier who dares to disrespect a Silla radish shall face not only the wrath of our brave warriors, but also the profound and lingering displeasure of their queen, and possibly General Kim Yushin, who, I am told, is particularly fond of a well-pickled radish with his evening meal. Of course, implementing these well-intentioned policies faces its own set of challenges. Silla's resources are constantly strained by warfare. Bureaucratic inefficiencies or corruption within the provincial administration could hinder the effective delivery of aid. And some powerful noble families, always protective of their own wealth and influence, might resist policies that they perceive as diminishing their own revenues or requiring greater contributions from their estates. Your ability to navigate these obstacles, to push through reforms that benefit the common people, even in the face of aristocratic grumbling, speaks volumes about your political skill and your determination. It is a significant historical fact, recorded in chronicles like the Samguk Sagi, that Queen Seondeok did indeed implement policies specifically aimed at relieving the suffering of the common populace. These accounts mention her opening royal storehouses to distribute grain during times of famine and ordering reductions in taxes for the impoverished and those suffering from natural disasters. These actions helped to cement her reputation as a caring and just ruler. For a quirky, though perhaps more legendary than strictly historical, tidbit, one might imagine folk songs or simple poems being composed by grateful peasants, praising Queen Seondeok's kindness and wisdom. Perhaps tales circulated in the villages of the queen making incognito visits, disguised as a common woman, to wander through the markets and fields, the better to understand the true plight of her people, a common and beloved trope for benevolent rulers throughout history. Whether these tales were true or not, they would have contributed to an image of a queen who was not remote and aloof, but deeply connected to the joys and sorrows of her subjects. If a Silla peasant had a particularly pressing complaint about, say, the quality of state-issued farming implements, they probably couldn't just tweet directly at the queen with a Yinimos royal tool scandal hashtag, but there was a sense that if word of genuine suffering and injustice did manage to filter its way up through the layers of bureaucracy and reach Queen Seondeok's ears, she was more likely to respond with practical aid and attempts at redress than with just her royal thoughts and prayers. Historians still engage in scholarly discussion regarding the true overall scale, reach, and long-term effectiveness of Queen Seondeok's welfare policies. Were these initiatives significant, kingdom-wide structural reforms that genuinely and substantially improved the daily lives of the majority of Silla's commoners? Or were they, given the immense pressures of constant warfare and the limitations of 7th century administration, more likely to have been localized, temporary measures primarily aimed at crisis relief, disaster management, and maintaining a crucial degree of social stability and popular support in what was an undeniably precarious and challenging era. It was almost certainly a pragmatic combination, a blend of heartfelt compassion and astute political necessity, all aimed at strengthening Silla from the roots up. That compassionate concern for the earthly welfare of your Silla subjects, Queen Seondeok, finds a powerful parallel in your equally profound commitment to their spiritual well-being, and indeed, to the spiritual fortification of the kingdom itself. In an era of uncertainty and conflict, religion offers solace, meaning, and a framework for social cohesion. And in 7th century Silla, the spiritual force that you choose to champion with extraordinary vigor and vision is Buddhism. While Buddhism had been officially recognized in Silla for about a century before your reign, following the famous martyrdom of Echedon in 527 CE, which finally persuaded the reluctant Silla court to embrace the foreign faith, it is under your astute and dedicated patronage that it truly blossoms. Becoming a defining characteristic of Silla culture and a powerful instrument of state policy, your personal devotion to Buddhist principles may well have been genuine and deep. Legends, like the one about your mother Queen Maya's auspicious dream of a golden Buddha before your birth, certainly suggest a destiny intertwined with the faith, but whether your patronage is driven more by sincere personal piety or by a shrewd understanding of Buddhism's potential as a unifying and legitimizing force for your rule, or, most likely, a complex fusion of both, the impact of your support is undeniable. You looked at Silla's existing spiritual landscape, with its blend of ancient shamanistic traditions and emerging Confucian ethics, and clearly thought, this is good, but it needs more magnificent temples. Really, really big, awe-inspiring temples. Ones that not only elevate the soul, but also subtly suggest to our rather aggressive neighbors in Baekje that they should perhaps reconsider their weekend invasion plans, because Silla is clearly favored by higher powers, and also possesses an impressive construction budget. The most spectacular and enduring testament to your Buddhist patronage is the commissioning of the great 9-story wooden pagoda at Hwangnyeongsa, the Temple of the Illustrious Dragon. This was already a major royal temple, but you envisioned a structure of unprecedented scale and symbolism. According to the Samguk Yusa, the eminent monk Jiajang, upon his return from studying in Tang, China, advised you that building this 9-story pagoda would ensure the protection of Silla by magically subduing the 9 neighboring hostile peoples or tribes that threaten the kingdom, each story representing one of these potential enemies. It was to be an immense wooden tower, reputedly around 80 meters or 224 Silla feet high, making it one of the tallest wooden structures in all of East Asia at the time. A true marvel of 7th century engineering. Building this colossal Hwangnyeongsa pagoda was probably Silla's ancient equivalent of a combined national defense initiative and a divinely sanctioned space race. Only instead of aiming for the moon, the ambitious goal was, let's construct the tallest, most spiritually potent wooden structure that won't immediately collapse in a stiff breeze, and will also mystically ensure the subjugation of 9 troublesome neighboring nations. Ha had no pressure at all on the chief architect. Abiji, a craftsman who, legend says, was actually invited from Baekje to oversee its construction. A fascinating detail suggesting cultural exchange even amidst rivalry. Another significant temple closely associated with your reign is Bunhwangsa, the fragrant emperor temple, renowned for its unique stone brick pagoda, a departure from the more common wooden structures, and one that still stands today in Gyeongju, albeit in a reduced state. Beyond these grand imperial projects, your reign likely saw widespread support for other monasteries and temples throughout the kingdom, perhaps in the form of land grants, tax exemptions, or direct funding for construction, renovation, and the creation of Buddhist art. You also actively support and patronize prominent Buddhist monks and scholars, recognizing their importance in disseminating Buddhist teachings, organizing the growing Sangha monastic community, and fostering cultural and intellectual exchange. The monk Jiajiang, whom we've mentioned, was a key figure during your reign. After his extensive studies in Tang China, he returned to Silla with a vast collection of Buddhist scriptures and relics, and you entrusted him with a leading role in reforming and standardizing Silla Buddhism, bringing it more in line with mainstream Mahayana traditions and strengthening its connection to the state. Other monks, inspired by royal patronage, would have engaged in teaching, translating scriptures, and meditating for the welfare of the kingdom. These learned monks returning from their studies in Tang China, laden with scrolls of sutras and perhaps a sacred relic or two, were like intellectual rock stars of their day. He's back. He's got the very latest, most profound Buddhist scriptures, and a tooth of a lesser-known bodhisattva form an orderly queue for a chance at enlightenment. Please, no pushing at the back. Maintain your meditative calm. Buddhism under your rule. Queen Seondeok becomes more than just a personal faith or a popular religion. It evolves into a powerful tool of statecraft. Its teachings of compassion, harmony, and righteous kingship, the ideal of the Chakravartin, or wheel-turning sage king who rules justly according to the Dharma, provide a potent ideology to unify your diverse and often fractious kingdom. It helps to legitimize your royal authority, linking the Silla monarchy with the protective power and moral prestige of the Buddhist faith. Monasteries become important centers of learning, culture, and even economic activity, contributing to Silla's overall development. Furthermore, Silla Buddhism develops a strong state protection aspect. Elaborate rituals, prayers, and sutra recitations are performed in the major temples specifically for the peace, prosperity, and military victory of the Silla kingdom. It's a historical fact that Queen Seondeok was a profoundly devout patron of Buddhism, and her reign is marked by the initiation of grand, state-sponsored temple construction projects, most famously the ambitious 9-story wooden pagoda at Hwangryongsa. This pagoda, by its very design and intention, was meant to symbolically protect the kingdom from its enemies and assert Silla's rising ambition and spiritual power on the peninsula. The impact of this royal patronage on Silla society and art is pervasive. Buddhist themes and motifs begin to dominate sculpture, painting, and decorative arts. The serene and compassionate images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas become familiar sights. The philosophical and ethical teachings of Buddhism gradually permeate all levels of society, offering a message of hope, a path to enlightenment, and a framework for moral conduct in a world often characterized by violence and uncertainty. For a quirky, though perhaps more symbolic than literal, tidbit, legend holds that the Great Hwangryongsa Pagoda was deliberately built to be so astonishingly tall that people in the capital cities of the neighboring enemy kingdoms of Baekje and Goguryeo could supposedly glimpse its very tip on an exceptionally clear day. Whether they actually could, given the distances and terrain, is highly debatable, but the powerful intention was certainly there to serve as a constant, distant, and slightly unnerving psychological reminder of Silla's growing spiritual power, its divine protection, and its unyielding ambition. Other kingdoms had impressive armies and formidable fortresses. Silla, under your guidance, had impressive armies, formidable fortresses, and a gigantic, 9-story, spiritually supercharged doom beacon pointed directly at all its enemies. Checkmate. Baekje? Historians still engage in considerable scholarly discussion regarding the primary motivations behind your extensive and very public patronage of Buddhism. Queen Seondeok. Was it driven more by your genuine, deeply felt personal religious devotion and a desire to see the Dharma flourish for its own sake? Or was it a more calculated and politically astute strategy, aimed at consolidating royal power by aligning the monarchy with a potent universalist ideology, unifying the kingdom under a common spiritual banner, and projecting Silla's cultural sophistication and moral authority to its rivals and to powerful allies like Tang China? It was, in all likelihood, a masterful blend of both, a reflection of your complex role as both a spiritual seeker and a pragmatic ruler navigating treacherous times. that profound spiritual blossoming under your royal patronage. Queen Seondeok, with its magnificent temples and deeply revered monks, is accompanied by a remarkable flourishing in other areas of culture, learning, and even scientific inquiry. Your reign isn't just about defending borders or ensuring your people have enough to eat. It's also about cultivating the scent of culture, to recall that famous story of the scentless peonies from your youth. You seem to understand that a kingdom's true greatness is measured not just by its military might or its material wealth, but also by its intellectual achievements and artistic vibrancy. And so, your court in Seorabeol becomes a nurturing ground for scholars, artisans, and thinkers, fostering advancements that will leave an enduring mark on Korean history. Perhaps the most iconic and visually striking symbol of this intellectual curiosity is the construction of Keomseongdae, the stargazing tower. This unique bottle-shaped stone structure, built in Seorabeol sometime during your reign, traditionally dated between 632 and 647 CE, stands today as the oldest surviving astronomical observatory in all of East Asia, and quite possibly one of the oldest in the world. Imagine this elegant, tapering tower, roughly 9 meters high, meticulously constructed from 365 dressed granite blocks, perhaps symbolizing the days of the year, rising from a square base that represents the earth to a round top that signifies the heavens. Its very existence is a testament to Silla's sophisticated interest in the cosmos. Queen Seondeok, after a particularly long and tedious day of fending off yet another unreasonable demand from Lord Grumpy Pants and trying to decipher heavily coded diplomatic messages from Bekshi that probably just said, "We still really dislike your turnips," likely enjoyed unwinding by saying to her attendants, "Right, that's enough earthly chaos for one day. Let's go up to Cheomseongdae, stare at some distant, uncaring stars, and ponder the vast, silent beauty of the universe for a while." It's surprisingly therapeutic. Especially after dealing with Lord Grumbles-a-Lot's latest treatise on the proper etiquette for addressing a royal pet tortoise. The primary purpose of Cheomseongdae was, as its name suggests, astronomical observation. Silla scholars and royal astronomers would have used it to chart the movements of the sun, moon, planets, and stars. This knowledge was crucial for several reasons. Astrology played a significant role in statecraft. Celestial omens and portents were carefully observed and interpreted as indicators of heavenly approval or displeasure, influencing royal decisions and public sentiment. A precise understanding of astronomical cycles was also vital for maintaining an accurate calendar. Essential for agriculture, knowing the right times for planting and harvesting, and for a kingdom with coastal regions and developing maritime interests, astronomical knowledge would have been valuable for navigation. Building Cheomseongdae was Silla's rather elegant way of announcing to the world, not only can we construct truly gigantic, spiritually potent wooden pagodas that may or may not magically subdue our enemies, we can also, with considerable accuracy, tell you when it's an astrologically auspicious day to plant your prize-winning cabbages, and predict if your perpetually grumpy northern neighbor is about to have a particularly bad hair day based on the current alignment of Mars. We're just that scientifically advanced. Thank you very much. The unique construction of Cheomseongdae itself is a source of fascination and a quirky tidbit for historians and archaeoastronomers. It's composed of 27 distinct circular layers of stone, and some scholars have suggested this number might symbolize you, Queen Seondeok, as the 27th ruler in the Silla royal line, counting from the traditional founder, Hyokshos. The window in its side is positioned such that on the equinoxes, sunlight would have filled the interior floor. Various other alignments and numerological interpretations have been proposed, turning it into a kind of ancient Korean stone computer, its precise function still sparking lively debate. Beyond astronomy, your reign likely saw continued advancements in other arts and sciences that characterize Silla's burgeoning cultural sophistication. Silla was already renowned for its exquisite metalworking, particularly its stunning gold crowns. intricate jewelry, and gilded bronze Buddhist statuary. This tradition of fine craftsmanship would have continued, with royal and monastic patronage providing impetus for artisans to hone their skills and produce works of breathtaking beauty. Silla artisans were so incredibly skilled with gold. Their devotional statues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas probably had to be displayed wearing tiny, specially crafted little sunglasses to avoid completely dazzling pious onlookers with their sheer, unadulterated bling. "Behold," the head monk might announce, "the sacred Buddha of 1,000 blindingly radiant glints approach with reverence, and possibly a welding mask." Silla pottery, particularly its distinctive gray stoneware with its incised or stamped decorations, also reached high levels of technical and artistic achievement during this period. While specific records directly linking you to advancements in fields like mathematics or medicine might be sparse, the general cultural milieu fostered by an intelligent and learned ruler like yourself, coupled with the intellectual stimulus provided by Buddhism and the exchanges with Tang China, would have created an environment conducive to scholarly pursuits. Monasteries, as we've seen, were not just centers of religious practice, but also vital repositories of knowledge. With libraries of scriptures and other texts, the painstaking work of translating Buddhist sutras from Chinese into a form accessible to Silla scholars would have involved considerable linguistic and philosophical expertise. Early forms of woodblock printing were also beginning to develop in East Asia around this time, and Silla may well have been an early adopter, facilitating the wider dissemination of texts. The education of the elite, including the Hwarang youths, would have encompassed not just martial training, but also literature, music, and ethical philosophy. Imagine a typical Hwarang youth's demanding curriculum for the day. "Right, lads. This morning it's 3 hours of advanced swordsmanship and mounted archery, followed by a 2-hour seminar on the subtle interplay of Confucian ethics and Buddhist metaphysics. This afternoon, we have a practical workshop on composing emotionally resonant 5-syllable poetry that also subtly praises the Queen's far-sighted agricultural policies. And then, to round things off, a pop quiz on the precise astronomical significance of the number 27 as it relates to the construction of Queen Seondeok. And don't forget your obligatory flower arranging and incense appreciation homework for tomorrow morning dismissed. It's a historical fact that Seondeok, the stargazing tower, was indeed constructed in Silla's capital, Gyeongju, during Queen Seondeok's reign, and still stands proudly today, a powerful symbol of Silla's early scientific achievements and its sophisticated engagement with the cosmos. While its exact range of functions continues to be debated by scholars, its existence clearly indicates a society with a deep and well-developed interest in celestial observation for both practical and symbolic purposes. Historians still engage in scholarly discussion about the precise practical astronomical capabilities of Queen Seondeok and the Silla astronomers who used it. Was it primarily a symbolic structure, a monumental gnomon representing royal authority and the kingdom's harmonious connection with the heavens, its observational functions being somewhat secondary or rudimentary? Or was it a genuinely functional scientific observatory, capable of facilitating precise measurements of solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events, implying a more advanced level of astronomical knowledge and instrumentation than sometimes credited? Or, most plausibly, was it a sophisticated combination of both, serving vital ritualistic, symbolic, and practical scientific purposes for the Silla state? The Silla royal astronomer's job, one imagines, probably involved a lot of patient skywatching, some very complicated charts likely inscribed on bamboo slips or turtle shells, and, on occasion, the rather delicate task of explaining to you, "Queen Seondeok, why the particularly spectacular comet you observed last night wasn't, in fact, a definitive celestial endorsement of your proposed new royal hat design, but more likely just a routine visitor from the Oort cloud with no specific opinions on Silla millinery whatsoever." Your reign, it seems, was dedicated not only to navigating the turbulent earth, but also to understanding the ordered heavens. That keen Silla interest in the ordered heavens, Symbolized by your magnificent Gyeomsungdae Observatory, Queen Seondeok finds a fascinating echo in the earthly realm through the numerous tales that celebrate your own extraordinary intellect, your almost uncanny foresight, and your ability to discern hidden truths from the most subtle of clues. While your patronage of Buddhism and your investment in cultural advancements showcase a ruler dedicated to the higher aspirations of her kingdom, it is perhaps these legendary stories of your personal wisdom, your three prophecies as they are often called, that most vividly capture the popular imagination and solidify your image as a monarch of almost supernatural sagacity. These tales, lovingly preserved in ancient chronicles like the Samguk Yusai, are more than just charming anecdotes. They are carefully constructed narratives designed to underscore your unique fitness to rule, to inspire awe, and to demonstrate that Silla, even under a female sovereign, is guided by a mind of exceptional brilliance. The first, and perhaps most famous of these demonstrations of your insight, is one we've touched upon from your youth, the episode of the Tang peony seeds and the accompanying painting. Remember how Emperor Taizong of Tang China, that powerful and occasionally rather condescending neighbor, sent this gift to your father's court? It was likely intended not just as a diplomatic courtesy, but perhaps as a subtle test, a way for the Tang court to gauge the astuteness of the Silla leadership, or even to gently mock them if they failed to perceive a hidden meaning. As the Silla nobles admired the vibrant colors of the painted peony flowers, you, still a young princess, famously observed that the flowers, though beautiful, were depicted without any attendant bees or butterflies. From this seemingly minor detail, you confidently predicted that the peonies grown from the gifted seeds would, for all their visual splendor, possess no fragrance. And, of course, when the seeds were planted and the flowers bloomed, your prediction proved entirely accurate. The Tang Emperor sends a rather lovely painting of flowers, clearly hoping to impress, or perhaps subtly befuddle, the Silla court. And young Princess Daukman basically takes one look and goes, "Very pretty. Your Imperial Majesty. Lovely brushwork. But any fool can see there are no insects buzzing around these blossoms. Therefore, quote, D. These flowers have absolutely no smell. Next time, your painters might want to add at least a token bumblebee if you're actually trying to fool me or my kingdom about the aromatic qualities of your imperial flora." She was, it seems, the Sherlock Holmes of 7th century royal botany and diplomatic gift interpretation. The second legendary display of your wisdom is the tale of the frogs at Akmunji, the Jade Gate Pond. The story goes that one winter, the frogs at this particular pond near the royal palace began croaking incessantly and unusually loudly for several days. Your concerned ministers and courtiers were baffled, unable to discern the meaning of this strange amphibian clamor. You, however, Queen Seondeok, immediately interpreted it as an urgent warning. The agitated croaking of frogs, you declared, signifies soldiers, the Jade Gate. Okmun is a poetic term for a woman's private parts. Jade Gate is Okmun, and Oke can also mean woman, and Mun can imply a hidden or secluded place. Frogs have bulging eyes like angry soldiers ready for battle, and they are croaking towards the southwest. This clearly means that an enemy army, likely from Baekje, is hiding in the Yogungak, the woman's hidden valley, to the southwest of the capital, preparing a surprise attack. Your logic, a fascinating blend of keen observation, symbolic interpretation, and perhaps a touch of inspired wordplay, initially met with skepticism. But you were resolute. You dispatched Silla troops to the named valley, and sure enough, they discovered a large force of Baekje soldiers lying in ambush. Commanded by a general named Uso, the Silla forces, forewarned by your insight, swiftly defeated the Baekje invaders, capturing many and securing a significant victory. Queen Seondeok, it appears, didn't need a sophisticated network of spies or a team of highly caffeinated intelligence analysts poring over satellite images which, admittedly, were in short supply in 7th century Silla. She had common sense, an incredible ability to read subtle signs, and possibly a secret, direct hotline to the universe. The frogs are croaking themselves hoarse and looking unusually shifty. You say, oh, that probably just means our dear neighbors from Baekya are hiding another 10,000 heavily armed soldiers in my royal backyard again. Standard Tuesday afternoon. Really, send in the cavalry, at which you would. The third and perhaps most poignant of these prophecies concerns the prediction of your own death. As your reign neared its end, you are said to have gathered your officials and calmly announced the exact day and even the hour you would pass away. Furthermore, you designated your burial place not within the established royal tomb complexes, but in a specific location known as Doricheon, or Tosion Pungchon, which translates to one of Triastrimsha heaven, one of the paradises in Buddhist cosmology, a celestial realm ruled by Indra. Your ministers were understandably distressed and perhaps a little confused by this precise, if somewhat unusual, funereal instruction. You, however, simply stated that it was your wish. And so it happened. You passed away on the very day you had foretold. Years later, your eventual successor, King Munmu, the son of Kim Chunchu, unified the peninsula and, in gratitude and reverence, ordered the construction of the magnificent Sacheon Wangsa, the temple of the four heavenly kings, to protect the kingdom. And as fate, or perhaps your own divine foresight, would have it, this temple was built just below the hill where your tomb was located, thus fulfilling your prophecy by placing your final resting place within the spiritual embrace and protective aura of a major Buddhist sanctuary associated with a heavenly realm. Predicting your own death day and the exact location for your eternal royal nap. That's truly next-level queening. Most of us can barely predict what we want for dinner with any degree of accuracy. You, Queen Seondeok, are out here booking your afterlife real estate with pinpoint celestial precision and ensuring future kings build appropriately grand temples nearby. These stories, whether entirely factual historical accounts or lovingly embellished legends passed down through generations, serve a vital purpose. They paint a portrait of you, Queen Seondeok, not just as a legitimate ruler by blood, but as a sovereign blessed with extraordinary wisdom, almost supernatural insight, and a profound connection to the deeper currents of fate and the cosmos. In an era when a female ruler was an anomaly, these narratives help to solidify your authority, inspire awe and loyalty among your people, and build an enduring mystique around your reign. It's a historical fact that these legends of Queen Seondeok's three prophecies, the scentless peonies, the croaking frogs, and her foreknowledge of her own death, are prominently recorded in the Samguk Yusa, a vital 13th century collection of Korean history, legends, folk tales, and Buddhist lore, compiled by the monk Irian. Their inclusion in such a significant text underscores their deep cultural importance and their role in shaping the traditional historical narrative of your reign. For a quirky tidbit, the specific, almost cryptographic interpretations of the signs in the Jade Gate Pond frog prophecy, for example, how the bulging eyes of the frogs were seen to represent angry, battle-ready soldiers, or how the name of the pond and the nearby valley, through puns and symbolic associations with femininity and hidden places, pointed to the location of the ambush, showcases a fascinating blend of meticulous observation, intricate wordplay, and a symbolic, divinatory way of thinking that was common in ancient East Asian cultures. Your royal advisors and generals probably learned, over time, to just nod sagely and accept your pronouncements. Your Majesty, you say the rather agitated and distinctly off-key chirping of the royal crickets this evening indicates a surprise Goguryeo naval exercise off the coast of Ulsan, and that we should therefore immediately reinforce our coastal defenses and send a strongly worded diplomatic note regarding unauthorized insect-bothering sounds perfectly logical to us. To the warship, that's men and someone fetch the royal inkstone. Historians, of course, still engage in considerable scholarly debate regarding the precise historicity of these famous prophecy stories. Are they largely factual accounts of Queen Seondeok's truly remarkable intellect, her astute political mind, and her uncanny foresight, carefully recorded by contemporary observers? Or are they primarily legendary embellishments, perhaps based on kernels of truth, but significantly enhanced and romanticized after her death by later chroniclers and storytellers seeking to elevate her reputation, to legitimize her extraordinary and unconventional reign as a female sovereign, and to create a powerful, inspiring founding narrative for a flourishing Silla kingdom? The truth is likely a captivating mixture, where genuine wisdom met the human need for compelling stories and divinely touched leaders. If Queen Seondeok had her own modern-day historical detective show, it would undoubtedly be called something like CSI Seorabiol, The Curious Case of the Suspiciously Silent Peonies, or perhaps Silla Royal Divination Unit, When Frogs Attack Your Enemies. That extraordinary wisdom and almost prophetic insight, Queen Seondeok, while undoubtedly a formidable asset in navigating the treacherous currents of 7th century Silla politics and diplomacy, cannot rule a kingdom or win wars in isolation. Even the most sagacious monarch needs loyal, capable, and utterly dedicated individuals to translate royal vision into tangible reality, to command armies, to manage the affairs of state, and to stand as unwavering pillars of support against both internal and external threats. And your reign is blessed with, and indeed heavily reliant upon, several such towering figures, most notably the brilliant military strategist General Kim Yushin and the astute statesman Kim Chunchu, who would himself later become a king. Their loyalty, their talents, and their powerful synergy with your own leadership form a crucial triumvirate that will define Silla's destiny. First, let us meet General Kim Yushin, born around 595 CE. He is a man of impeccable lineage, though one with a complex history in relation to the Silla throne. He hails from the royal family of the former Gaia Confederacy, a group of smaller states that had been conquered and absorbed by Silla decades earlier. His grandfather was the last king of Gumguan Gaia, who surrendered to Silla. This background means that while Kim Yushin's family is integrated into the Silla aristocracy, holding high Trubone Jingol rank, they are, in a sense, outsiders who have had to prove their loyalty and worth to their Silla overlords. And prove it, Kim Yushin does, in spectacular fashion. He emerges as one of the most brilliant military commanders in Korean history, a master of strategy and tactics, a charismatic leader capable of inspiring fierce devotion in his troops, and a man of unyielding courage and determination. Kim Yushin doesn't just command armies, he probably scares Baekje soldiers into immediate and unconditional surrender just by giving them one of his particularly stern, battle-hardened looks from across the field. Is that General Kim Yushin over there on that very large, very imposing warhorse? Oh dear, I suddenly have a pressing prior engagement to run away very, very fast in the opposite direction. His loyalty to you, Queen Seondeok, and to the Silla royal line is absolute. He becomes your right hand in military matters, the strong shield of the kingdom. He plays a pivotal role in training and modernizing the Silla army, perhaps drawing upon his understanding of both Silla and former Gaia military traditions. He is also closely associated with the Hwarang, those elite flower youths of Silla, serving as a role model and a leader, instilling in them the virtues of loyalty, courage, and martial prowess. Throughout your reign, in the endless cycle of border wars against Baekje and Goguryeo, it is often Kim Yushin's strategic genius and battlefield leadership that secure vital victories or prevent catastrophic defeats for Silla. Your working relationship is one of mutual trust and respect. You provide the overarching vision and the royal authority. He provides the military muscle and the tactical brilliance. Then there is Kim Chunchu, a figure of immense political importance and a key architect of Silla's future. Born around 604 CE, he is your nephew, the son of your elder sister, Princess Cheonmyong, and her husband Kim Yongsu, a true bone noble. This lineage places Kim Chunchu in a very prominent position, possessing a strong claim to eventual succession, particularly given his own Seondeok connection through his mother. He is known not so much for his battlefield command, though he is no stranger to military affairs, but for his exceptional diplomatic skills, his political acumen, and his unwavering determination to see Silla triumph over its rivals. This determination is fueled, in part, by a deep personal tragedy, the loss of his wife and daughter during the brutal Baekje capture of Daya Fortress in 642 CE, an event that hardens his resolve to see Baekje utterly defeated. Kim Chanchu becomes your chief diplomat, especially in the crucial and delicate negotiations with Tang China. His missions to the Tang court are vital for securing alliances, requesting military aid, and navigating the complex expectations of the powerful Chinese emperors. Kim Chanchu's diplomatic visits to the Tang imperial court were probably 50% incredibly intricate and nuanced political negotiations about troop deployments and trade agreements, and 50% patiently trying to explain to the slightly bewildered Tang emperor why no. Silla really didn't require the generous offer of another junior Tang prince to come over and help them with the apparently insurmountable task of ruling their own kingdom. We're quite all right, honestly. Your Imperial Majesty the Queen's got this truly more tea. What makes this period particularly potent for Silla is the powerful alliance forged between these two Kims, Kim Yushin and Kim Chunchu. Their skills are complementary. Yushin, the unyielding warrior, Chunchu, the master statesman and diplomat. This partnership is further solidified by strong family ties. Kim Yushin's younger sister, Mun Hui, eventually marries Kim Chunchu, becoming Queen Munmyong and the mother of King Munmu, the future unifier of the peninsula. This close bond between the military might of Yushin and the political and diplomatic sagacity of Chunchu, all operating under your overarching royal authority and vision, Queen Seondeok, creates a formidable leadership core for Silla. You have, essentially, assembled Silla's dream team, Kim Yushin, for when you absolutely, positively need an invading enemy army to abruptly cease to exist in a decisive and preferably spectacular fashion, and Kim Chunchu for when you need to politely but firmly convince the Tang Emperor to lend you more advanced siege engines while not, in fact, surrendering even an inch of Silla sovereignty. Of course, there would have been other loyal officials, brave commanders, and wise counselors who supported your reign. Men like the elder statesman Alcyon, who reputedly once offered to take the throne as regent if you felt unable to continue, but whom you trusted implicitly. But it is the names of Kim Yushin and Kim Chunchu that shine brightest in the historical records alongside your own. Your genius as a ruler lies not just in your personal wisdom, but in your ability to recognize, nurture, and effectively deploy the exceptional talents of such individuals, inspiring their loyalty and harnessing their abilities for the good of the kingdom. Imagine the Silla Royal Military Strategy meetings. You, Queen Seondeok, presiding with calm authority. Well, gentlemen, Baekje is being particularly bothersome on the Western Front again, and Goguryeo is making vaguely threatening noises up north. Any brilliant new ideas? General Kim Yushin, ever practical, probably grunts attack decisively. Hai, Kim Chunchu, the diplomat, might counter, perhaps a strongly worded scroll to Tang requesting their moral support. Then attack with their banners, if possible. You would then, with serene wisdom, likely respond, excellent. Yushin, you shall handle the attacking with your customary brilliance. Chunchu, do go and be charmingly intimidating to the Tang envoys. I shall so always ensure the royal tea is appropriately motivational and that our national supply of pointy sticks remains robust. It's a historical fact that General Kim Yushin was an absolutely pivotal military figure throughout the later Three Kingdoms period, playing a crucial role in Silla's defense during your reign. Queen Seondeok, and later, working in tandem with Kim Chunchu, who became King Muyol, he was instrumental in Silla's ultimate conquest of Baekje and Goguryeo, and the unification of much of the Korean peninsula. Their enduring alliance, forged under your rule, was fundamental to Silla's eventual triumph. For a quirky tidbit, legends abound about Kim Yushin's almost supernatural connection with his troops and even his warhorse. One famous story recounts how, during a particularly grueling campaign, Yushin's beloved warhorse, which was said to be so intelligent it could understand his commands and even anticipate enemy movements, stumbled from exhaustion. Yushin, himself weary and frustrated, in a rare moment of anger, supposedly drew his sword and threatened to execute the horse. The loyal steed, the story goes, looked at its master with such sorrowful reproach, shedding actual tears, that Yushin was immediately overcome with remorse, repented his harshness, and personally tended to the animal. Such tales, whether literally true or not, illustrate the immense respect and near-mythical status accorded to Kim Yushin, and the profound bonds of loyalty he inspired. If General Kim Yushin had a personal theme song, it would probably involve a lot of very dramatic Korean gongs. The stirring cries of charging warriors, and possibly a full choir of exceptionally disciplined Hwarang youths, humming in a deeply menacing and highly motivational key. Historians still engage in scholarly discussion about the precise nature of the power dynamic within this Silla leadership triumvirate. Were you Queen Seondeok, always firmly in command, astutely using these two powerful men primarily as the skilled instruments of your own royal will and strategic vision? Or were you, to some extent, particularly in the highly specialized and male-dominated domains of military campaigning and high-stakes international diplomacy, reliant on their expert counsel and unwavering support? Perhaps even occasionally guided by their more assertive initiatives, it was most likely a symbiotic relationship, a partnership where your royal legitimacy and profound wisdom provided the guiding framework, while their exceptional talents gave Silla the sharp edges it needed to survive and ultimately to conquer. That formidable combination of your royal wisdom, Queen Seondeok, Kim Yushin's military genius, and Kim Chunchu's diplomatic prowess creates a powerful shield and a sharp spear for Silla. Yet, even with such capable and loyal supporters by your side, the Silla court remains a place of simmering ambitions, factional rivalries, and the ever-present potential for treachery. As your reign progresses into its later years, perhaps with your own health beginning to wane, or with the accumulated stresses of constant warfare and governance taking their toll, the most dangerous internal challenge to your authority finally erupts, shaking the kingdom to its very foundations. This is the treacherous revolt led by Bedtime, a man of high noble rank and even higher ambition. The rebellion of Bedtime, which breaks out in 647 CE, the very year of your death, represents the culmination of underlying tensions within the Silla aristocracy. Bedtime holds the prestigious office of Sangdaedong, effectively the highest-ranking minister in the Wabaic Council of Nobles, a position of immense influence. His motivations for launching a rebellion are debated by historians, but the slogan he raises is chillingly direct and strikes at the very heart of your legitimacy. A woman ruler cannot properly rule the country. Nuju bunung shanli. Yoju bulung seonri. This rallying cry is designed to appeal to the conservative, patriarchal elements within the nobility and the broader society. Those who may have harbored resentment or skepticism about a female sovereign from the very beginning, or those who simply see an opportunity to seize power for themselves under a convenient ideological banner. Bedtime basically looks at your nearly 15 years of generally successful, often brilliant, and remarkably astute rule, Queen Seondeok, and decides, with a breathtaking lack of self-awareness, you know what, a man with a suitably impressive beard and a profound sense of my own importance, could probably do this job slightly worse, perhaps, but with significantly more Y chromosomes, and that, clearly, is what truly matters for effective governance. His logic, one suspects, was flawless primarily in his own ambitious mind. The rebellion quickly gathers momentum. Bedtime and his faction of disgruntled nobles manage to raise a significant force, and open conflict breaks out, likely in or around the capital city of Surbyeol. This is not just a minor court squabble, it's a full-blown civil insurrection that poses a mortal threat to your throne and the stability of the Silla kingdom. The capital itself becomes a battleground, with loyalist forces, undoubtedly spearheaded by General Kim Yushin and supported by Kim Chunchu, clashing fiercely with Badam's rebels. The fate of Silla hangs precariously in the balance. During the height of this tense standoff, a dramatic celestial event occurs that Badam's faction immediately seizes upon for its propaganda value. A large star, perhaps a meteor or a comet, is seen falling from the sky. The rebels triumphantly proclaim this a dire omen, a clear sign from the heavens that your reign, Queen Seondeok, is at an end, that divine favor has been withdrawn, and that their cause is just. Morale among the royalist troops wavers. Superstition is a powerful force. It is in this critical moment that your legendary astuteness once again comes to the fore. You devise a brilliant countermove to turn this ill omen back against your enemies. You order a large kite to be constructed, and then, under the cover of darkness, a burning effigy or lantern is attached to it and sent aloft. To the watching soldiers and the populace, it appears as if the fallen star is miraculously rising back into the heavens. This clever piece of psychological warfare, a historical tidbit that showcases your quick thinking, immediately restores the morale of your loyalist forces and demoralizes the rebels. A falling star, you say, bite 'em. My dear misguided chap, you might have thought with a wry internal smile. Oh, that was just a rather spectacular celestial firework display I arranged earlier. In fact, look, it seems to be going back up now. See, everything's perfectly fine. The heavens are still very much on my side. Now, about this rather inconvenient and frankly quite treasonous rebellion of yours. You essentially out-omen the omen-mongers. Ultimately, the military skill of Kim Yushin and the loyalty of the forces under his command prove decisive. Badam's rebellion is crushed after about 10 days of intense fighting. Badam himself is captured and executed, along with the leading members of his faction. Their families often suffering severe punishment as well. In accordance with the harsh justice of the era, your authority, or at least the authority of the Silla throne, is brutally reaffirmed. But the victory comes at a terrible cost, with much bloodshed and a deepening of the fissures within the Silla aristocracy. Kim Yushin's reaction to Badam's rebellion was probably something along the lines of, another Tuesday, another profoundly misguided internal uprising, led by a disgruntled noble with severe delusions of grandeur and a rather poor understanding of military logistics. Right. Where did I put my Rebellion Suppression for Dummies Advanced Edition handbook? Oh, wait. I am the handbook. Charge. Tragically, you, Queen Seondeok, do not live to see the full restoration of peace. You pass away in 647 CE, either during the rebellion itself or very shortly after its suppression. The exact circumstances are unclear, and did the immense stress and sorrow of this internal conflict, this betrayal by one of your highest officials, contribute to your demise. It seems highly probable. Your reign, which began with such an unprecedented challenge to tradition, ends amidst the turmoil of civil strife. Bedtime's rebel slogan, "A woman cannot rule the country," was, of course, deeply ironic and ultimately proven false, considering you had been ruling, and ruling quite effectively, for over a decade, overseeing the construction of giant pagodas, founding astronomical observatories, navigating complex international diplomacy, and generally outsmarting most of your male contemporaries. His timing, one might say, was as poor as his judgment. It is a well-documented historical fact that towards the very end of Queen Seondeok's reign, the high-ranking nobleman Badam did indeed launch a major rebellion, explicitly challenging her legitimacy as a female ruler under the slogan, "Female rulers cannot properly govern the country." Yeoju Bulung Son Reiksoi. This revolt posed a very serious threat to the Silla throne, but was ultimately and decisively suppressed by forces loyal to the queen, primarily led by General Kim Yushin, though Queen Seondeok herself died during or immediately after this tumultuous period. Historians still engage in considerable scholarly debate regarding Badam's precise motivations and the true extent of his support. Was he a genuinely conservative ideologue? A diehard traditionalist who fundamentally believed that a woman was incapable of ruling and that her reign was an affront to heavenly principles and ancestral traditions? Was he perhaps the figurehead of a powerful aristocratic faction that felt increasingly marginalized or threatened by your policies? Queen Seondeok, or by the growing influence of other figures like Kim Yushin and Kim Chunchu? Or was he, at heart, simply an incredibly ambitious and opportunistic political operator who merely used the rhetoric of gender and tradition as a convenient pretext to make a brazen grab for supreme power himself? The historical sources offer clues, but the full complexity of Badam's character and his rebellion's underlying causes remains a subject of ongoing interpretation. After Badam's revolt was finally put down, you can imagine the Silla court's official suggestion box policy being quietly updated by your successor. All constructive suggestions for the betterment of the kingdom are, of course, most welcome. Treasonous suggestions, however, particularly those involving ill-advised rebellions, will henceforth be utilized as primary archery targets by General Kim Yushin during his morning practice sessions. Your cooperation is appreciated. The suppression of Badam's treacherous revolt, though it tragically coincided with the very end of your life. Queen Seondeok ultimately served to reaffirm the strength and resilience of the Silla throne and the loyalist forces you had nurtured. But your impact, your true legacy, extends far beyond simply quelling internal dissent. Even as your spirit prepares to journey to that celestial Dorsian you so calmly predicted, the seeds you have sown throughout your 15-year reign are already beginning to take root, destined to blossom into a future you may not live to see, but one that your astute leadership has made possible: the unification of the Korean peninsula under Silla rule. The grand, audacious goal of unifying the three kingdoms, Silla, Baekje, and Goguryeo, into a single political entity was likely not an explicit, publicly proclaimed policy during the entirety of your reign. Your primary focus, by necessity, was often on Silla's immediate survival, on fending off invasions, on managing the delicate and demanding relationship with Tang China, and on maintaining internal stability. Yet, almost every major initiative you undertook, every strategic decision you made, contributed inexorably to strengthening Silla to a point where your successors, armed with the foundations you laid, could achieve that very unification. You didn't just leave behind a kingdom when you departed the world. You left behind a Silla that was, in essence, unification ready. Just add a couple more decades of intense effort, the continued brilliance of Kim Yushin and Kim Chunchu, and a generous sprinkling of Tang Dynasty opportunism carefully managed, of course. Consider the key pillars you painstakingly constructed. You navigated the perilous waters of female sovereignty, establishing and defending the legitimacy of your rule against both internal skeptics and external doubters. By successfully reigning as a woman, and by choosing or ensuring the Hwabaek Council chose another Seongal woman, your cousin Jinduk, to succeed you. You solidified the principle that leadership capability was not solely a male prerogative, at least within the unique confines of Silla's sacred bone lineage. This ensured a degree of continuity and stability at a critical juncture. Your diplomatic masterstroke, the carefully cultivated, if often fraught, alliance with Tang China, was absolutely crucial. You understood that Silla on its own was unlikely to overcome the combined might of Baekje and Goguryeo. The Tang alliance, for all its inherent risks and the condescending attitude of emperors like Taizong, provided Silla with a powerful military backer, access to advanced military technology and strategy, and a vital diplomatic counterweight to its peninsular rivals. It was a dangerous game, but one you played with consummate skill, preserving Silla's autonomy while leveraging Tang power for Silla's benefit. Internally, your efforts to promote the welfare of your people, to ease tax burdens, and to provide aid during times of hardship help to foster a sense of loyalty and social cohesion. A populace that feels cared for by its ruler is more likely to endure the sacrifices demanded by prolonged warfare. Your extensive patronage of Buddhism also played a vital role in this. By elevating Buddhism to a state-sponsored religion, by commissioning magnificent temples like the Hwangnyongsa, nine-story pagoda, and Bunhuangsa, you provided Silla with a powerful unifying ideology, a shared spiritual identity that transcended clan loyalties and regional differences. The concept of Silla as a Buddha land, a kingdom protected by divine powers, would have been a potent rallying cry. Imagine your successors, Kim Chunchu and Kim Munmu, looking at the detailed notes and strategic frameworks you might have left behind. Right. Queen Seondeok's Royal Guide to Achieving Peninsular Hegemony. Unabridged. Step 1. Build a really ridiculously tall pagoda to impress everyone and subtly demoralize enemies. Check. Step 2. Befriend the Tang dynasty, but ensure they understand we're borrowing their army, not inviting them to redecorate the palace. Check. Step 3. Ensure General Kim Yushin is well supplied with sharp, pointy things and highly motivated troops. Double check. Step 4. This page just has a drawing of a smiling Buddha and the words, "Figure it out." Boys. Step 5. Glorious unified Silla seems perfectly straightforward. And perhaps most critically, you recognized, nurtured, and placed your unwavering trust in the exceptional talents of men like General Kim Yushin and the statesman Kim Chunchu. You provided them with the authority and the resources they needed to excel in their respective fields. Yushin on the battlefield, Chunchu in the intricate dance of diplomacy and court politics. This powerful partnership, which you fostered, would become the engine driving Silla's unification efforts in the decades following your death. Silla's enemies, like Baekje and Goguryeo, probably breathed a collective, premature sigh of relief when they heard of your passing. Queen Seondeok. Haha, they might have thought. The wise queen is gone, now Silla will surely crumble. Little did they realize that you had essentially left behind a highly motivated General Kim Yushin with a very long, very detailed to-do list for the immediate future. The top items being 1. Thoroughly annihilate Baekje, 2. Systematically dismantle Goguryeo, 3. Enjoy a nice cup of tea. Nice. While the actual unification wars would be fought and won by your successors, King Muyol Kim Chunchu, who ascended the throne in 654 CE after Queen Seondeok and his son, King Munmu, the groundwork was undeniably laid during your reign. It's a widely accepted historical fact that while Queen Seondeok did not live to see the unification of the three kingdoms, her 15-year reign is critically regarded by historians as having established the indispensable diplomatic alliances, military preparedness, internal stability, and ideological cohesion that made Silla's eventual triumph possible. She created a springboard from which Silla could launch its bid for supremacy. Did you consciously envision this grand project of unification? Queen Seondeok, was it your explicit, long-term strategic goal from the outset? Or were your policies primarily focused on the more immediate, pragmatic concerns of ensuring Silla's survival, strengthening its defenses, and consolidating its internal order in a fiercely competitive world, with unification emerging as a more tangible possibility only later? Perhaps under the influence of ambitious figures like Kim Chunchu. For a quirky tidbit, one might imagine that after your death, as Silla's armies began their inexorable march towards victory, folk beliefs arose attributing these successes to your guiding spirit. Perhaps soldiers whispered that the protective magic of the great Hwangnyongsa pagoda you commissioned was finally coming to its full fruition, its 9 stories mystically subduing Silla's enemies one by one. Just as the monk Zhejiang had prophesied, scholarly debate continues on this very point, the extent to which Queen Seondeok actively pursued a deliberate, long-term strategy for the military conquest and political unification of the entire Korean peninsula, versus the degree to which her policies were primarily defensive and aimed at Silla's immediate survival, consolidation, and cultural flourishing. Perhaps she was a master of Silla-first pragmatism, whose astute strengthening of her own kingdom, incidentally, paved the path for its later expansion. Or perhaps behind her serene countenance and diplomatic finesse lay a far-reaching, audacious vision of a unified realm under a Silla sovereign. A vision she patiently and meticulously worked towards, laying one essential foundation stone at a time. Her contribution to the future unification was rather like that of a master architect who designs a magnificent cathedral and ensures all the foundational stones are perfectly cut and immaculately placed. Her successors then had the task of raising the walls, vaulting the roof, and trying not to accidentally knock over any of the load-bearing pillars in the process of completing her grand design. Whatever the precise balance of intent and outcome, your reign, Queen Seondeok, indisputably forged a Silla robust enough, resilient enough, and ambitious enough to eventually achieve the seemingly impossible. The Silla kingdom, having weathered the storm of Bidam's rebellion and mourned your passing, Queen Seondeok, in that tumultuous year of 647 CE, does not falter. The seeds of stability and strength that you so carefully planted and nurtured throughout your reign now begin to visibly take root, demonstrating the resilience of the foundations you laid. The immediate aftermath of your death is not one of collapse or chaos, but rather a period of determined continuity, a testament to the robust systems and capable leadership you had fostered. This allows Silla to transition relatively smoothly and continue its trajectory towards eventual peninsular dominance. The first and most telling sign of this stability is the succession itself. Following your demise, the Silla throne passes to your cousin, Princess Seungmin, who reigns as Queen Jinduk. The fact that another woman ascends to the Silla throne, so soon after Bidam's revolt, which explicitly challenged the legitimacy of female rule, is profoundly significant. It suggests that your successful 15-year reign, Queen Seondeok, had effectively normalized, or at least made acceptable within the Seonggol lineage. The concept of a female sovereign provided the candidate possessed the requisite sacred bloodline. Queen Jinduk steps up to the challenge, and the Silla court, having just dealt rather decisively with the last major proponent of the no girls allowed on the throne. Argument? Probably thinks. Another queen, you say excellent. We've still got all those slightly modified, and now battle-tested, coronation robes from Queen Seondeok's time, marvelous efficiency. And this time, perhaps fewer rebellious nobles will try to argue with her choice of imperial hat. Queen Jinduk, reigning from 647 to 654 CE, largely proves to be a ruler in your mold. Queen Seondeok, continuing many of your key policies and further consolidating the kingdom. She maintains and indeed strengthens the vital alliance with Tang China. For a quirky tidbit, Queen Seondeok is particularly famous in this regard for having composed a beautiful and highly sophisticated 5-character quatrain poem titled Ode to Grand Peace Taepyeong Song. This poem, meticulously embroidered on a piece of rich Silla silk brocade, was sent as a tribute to Emperor Taizong of Tang. It was a masterpiece of diplomatic flattery and cultural sophistication, praising the Tang Emperor's wise and virtuous rule, his military prowess, and the universal peace brought about by his enlightened governance, all while subtly positioning Silla as a loyal and cultured ally. It was peak 7th century diplomacy via textile art. One can imagine it took 50 highly skilled court ladies 6 months of painstaking needlework, possibly fueled by copious amounts of ginseng tea, to complete this silken ode. It was undoubtedly far more effective in charming the Tang court than just sending another consignment of moderately enthusiastic hunting falcons. Under Queen Seondeok, the powerful partnership between General Kim Yushin and the statesman Kim Chunchu, which you, Queen Seondeok, had so carefully cultivated, continues to be the driving force behind Silla's military and political strategy. Kim Yushin remains the supreme commander of the Silla armies, tirelessly working to defend the borders and prepare for future offensives. Kim Chunchu, with his impeccable royal connections, he is, after all, Queen Jindeok's cousin as well. And your nephew continues to wield enormous influence in the court and in diplomatic affairs. Their combined influence, backed by a now more accepting aristocracy and a stable throne, allows Silla to not only defend itself, but to begin taking a more assertive stance against its rivals. The Silla kingdom, in the years immediately following your death, Queen Seondeok, operates rather like a well-oiled, yes, if still somewhat battle-scarred, machine. You had set it all up so effectively, with capable individuals in key positions and a clear strategic direction, that it could largely continue to function and even thrive while the nation mourned its wise queen, and then got right back to the pressing business of becoming a regional superpower. Beadham's ghost, if it was indeed haunting the palace corridors, was probably muttering to itself in profound frustration. Wait a minute. They replaced her with another supremely competent woman, and the kingdom still hasn't imploded. My entire rebellion was clearly based on a fundamentally flawed premise, curses and confound it. During Queen Jindeok's reign, Silla begins to make more significant headway against Baekje. The constant pressure, the strategic acumen of Kim Yushin, and the diplomatic isolation of Baekje, partly engineered by Kim Chunchu's efforts with Tung, start to yield tangible results. Silla forces achieve several important victories, reclaiming lost territories and further weakening their Western adversary. These successes are built directly upon the military reforms, the strengthened defenses, and the disciplined army that were hallmarks of your own rule. Queen Seondeok. The Silla system that you did so much to shape, its centralized administration, its emphasis on loyalty to the crown, its ability to mobilize resources, and its sophisticated diplomatic corps, proves its worth in these crucial years. The legacy you are building is not just one of personal achievement, but of institutional strengthening. The Hwabaek Council, though still a powerful aristocratic body, appears more aligned with the throne's objectives, particularly with figures like Kim Chunchu playing a leading role within it. The Buddhist establishment, which you so generously patronized, continues to provide ideological support and social cohesion. It's a historical fact that Queen Jindeok's relatively short but stable reign, immediately following yours, Queen Seondeok, was critical in further consolidating Silla's internal strength and its pro-Tang foreign policy. This period effectively paved the way for the eventual accession of Kim Chunchu as King Muyol in 654 CE, marking the end of the Seonggol line of rulers and the beginning of the true bone monarchy that would finally achieve unification. This relatively smooth transition itself, from Seonggol queens to a Jinggol king who had strong Seonggol connections and immense popular and military backing, was a testament to the stability you had instilled. How were you remembered? Queen Seondeok, in these immediate years following your passing. While detailed records of popular sentiment are scarce, it's highly likely that there was a concerted effort, particularly by those loyal to your memory and your vision like Kim Chunchu and Kim Yushin, to solidify your image as a wise, benevolent, and divinely favored ruler. This would have been crucial in countering any lingering negativity from Bedtime's rebellion and its anti-female ruler rhetoric. The construction of your tomb in the place you yourself had prophesied, and the later building of the Sachunwangsa temple nearby, served as powerful physical manifestations of your sacred status and enduring spiritual importance. Your legacy was beginning to take root, not just in stone and temple timbers, but in the narrative of Silla's destiny. Historians still engage in scholarly discussion about the precise extent of your direct planning. Queen Seondeok, for Queen Jindeok's succession. Was Jindeok your clearly designated heir apparent all along, carefully groomed and prepared by you for the burdens of rule, ensuring a seamless continuation of your line and policies, or was her selection more a pragmatic, perhaps even somewhat hurried, decision made by the Hwabaek Council and key power brokers like Kim Chunchu and Kim Yushin immediately after your unexpected death amidst the Bedtime crisis, choosing the most suitable and legitimate remaining Seonggol candidate to ensure stability and prevent a power vacuum? The truth likely involves elements of both foresight on your part and astute crisis management by your loyal supporters. What is certain is that the legacy taking root was one of a stronger, more unified, and increasingly confident Silla, poised on the very brink of achieving its historical destiny. That Silla, poised on the brink of achieving its destiny, a kingdom strengthened by your wisdom, defended by the valor you inspired, and guided by the diplomatic paths you so carefully charted. Queen Seondeok is the immediate legacy that begins to flourish after your reign. But the echoes of your life and your extraordinary rule resonate far beyond those turbulent decades of the 7th century. Your name, your story, and your achievements have become woven into the very tapestry of Korean history and identity, ensuring that Queen Seondeok, the astute female ruler of Silla, is remembered and revered even today, nearly 14 centuries later. In the grand narrative of Korean history, you are consistently lauded as one of the great sovereigns of the Silla kingdom, a pivotal figure during a critical period of transformation. You are celebrated not only for being Silla's first reigning queen, a remarkable feat in a deeply patriarchal era, but also for your profound intelligence, your political acumen, your benevolent concern for your people, and your crucial role in laying the essential groundwork for the eventual unification of the three kingdoms. Your patronage of Buddhism is seen as a golden age for the faith in Silla, shaping its spiritual and cultural landscape for centuries to come. And your foresight in fostering scientific and cultural advancements, most notably symbolized by the enduring presence of Seongdeok, highlights a ruler who looked not just to earthly power but also to the wisdom of the heavens. If you, Queen Seondeok, had a modern-day LinkedIn profile, it would be truly formidable. Reading something like highly experienced monarch and visionary leader, Silla Kingdom, core competencies prophecy, advanced diplomacy expert level in Tang dynasty relations, large-scale pagoda construction project management, effective rebel suppression, and a proven track record in making condescending foreign emperors reconsider their life choices. Seeking continued national prosperity and perhaps a slightly less perilous border situation, this reverence is reflected vividly in contemporary South Korea. Your story has been the subject of numerous popular television dramas, historical novels, children's books, and documentaries, each reinterpreting your life and reign for a new generation. While these popular depictions often take, shall we say, certain dramatic liberties with strict historical accuracy, perhaps adding a few more slow-motion sword fights, a brooding romantic interest for the queen, or a villainous court noble who twirls his mustache with slightly more theatrical menace than the ancient chronicles strictly detail, they nevertheless speak to your enduring appeal as a national icon. Historical accuracy, after all, sometimes needs a little narrative embellishment to truly capture the primetime television audience. You are held up as a symbol of wise female leadership, a figure of intellect and resilience who successfully navigated immense challenges. The city of Gyeongju, the ancient Silla capital of Seorabeol, is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and visitors flock to see the tangible remnants of your era, your royal tomb. The graceful Seongdeok Observatory still pointing to the stars, and the historical sites of the magnificent temples like Hwangmyeongsa, whose pagoda, sadly, was destroyed by Mongol invaders in the 13th century. Though its vast foundation stones remain, and Bunhwangsa, your name has graced naval destroyers, academic institutions, and cultural awards, a constant reminder of your significant place in the nation's heritage. The lessons from your reign continue to resonate. Your ability to lead effectively in a society that afforded women few opportunities for public power. Your skill in balancing delicate foreign relations. Your commitment to the welfare of your people even amidst constant warfare. And your vision in promoting culture and learning. These aspects of your rule offer timeless insights into the nature of wise and effective leadership. Archaeologists and historians continue to study your era, poring over ancient texts and excavating Silla sites, constantly seeking new perspectives and deeper understanding of the complexities of your reign and the society you governed. They are probably still secretly hoping to unearth a hidden cache of Queen Seondeok's personal diaries, perhaps titled My Secret Thoughts on Lord Grumpy Pants and Other Assorted Courtly Annoyances, or A Queen's Guide to Subtly Intimidating Foreign Ambassadors Using Only a Serene Smile and Impeccable Logic. It's a historical fact that Queen Seondeok is widely celebrated in contemporary South Korea as one of its most significant and admired historical female leaders. She is often depicted in both academic scholarship and popular culture as a wise, benevolent, and visionary ruler who successfully overcame gender prejudice and immense political and military pressures to strengthen her kingdom and lay the foundations for a unified Korea. For a quirky tidbit related to your enduring legacy, modern tourists visiting the ancient Keomseongdae Observatory in Gyeongju often engage in their own amateur archaeoastronomy, attempting to count the precise number of stones, discern its exact astronomical alignments, or unravel the complex numerological symbolism supposedly embedded in its unique bottle-shaped design. It remains a source of fascination and a tangible link to the scientific curiosity and intellectual vibrancy of your reign, almost like an ancient, beautifully crafted stone escape room puzzle, challenging visitors to unlock the secrets of Silla's understanding of the cosmos. And who knows, perhaps somewhere in Gyeongju today, a trendy-themed cafe serves Queen Seondeok's peony petal tea, or Jade Gate Pond Frog Croquette Surprise in your honor. Historians, in their ongoing efforts to understand the past, still engage in thoughtful debate regarding the single most significant aspect of Queen Seondeok's long-term legacy. Was it her groundbreaking role in pioneering and legitimizing female sovereignty in a deeply Confucian-influenced Korean society? Was it her exceptional diplomatic acumen, particularly in managing the critical but perilous relationship with the Tang dynasty? Was it her profound patronage of Buddhism and culture, which so deeply shaped Silla's golden age and its spiritual identity? Or was it her crucial, if perhaps indirect, contribution to laying the indispensable foundations for the eventual unification of the peninsula by her successors? The answer, most likely, is that all these facets are inextricably intertwined, contributing to the rich and complex portrait of one of Korea's most remarkable and enduring rulers. And so, as the stars begin to wheel in the velvet sky above ancient Sirabiol, and the last lamp is extinguished in your royal palace, it's time for us to let the image of Queen Seondeok, in all her wisdom and resilience, gently fade into the soft embrace of our dreams. You've glimpsed the intricate tapestry of her world, the clash of kingdoms, the rigid social order, the weight of the crown, the whisper of prophecy, the clash of swords, and the serene chant of Buddhist monks. You've seen a leader who faced down skepticism, outmaneuvered her enemies, nurtured her people, and looked to the heavens for guidance, all while steering her kingdom through some of its most perilous and formative years. The Silla that Queen Seondeok inherited was one kingdom among three, fighting for its very existence. The Silla she left behind, despite the turmoil of her final days, was a kingdom strengthened, culturally enriched, and set firmly on a path that would lead to a new chapter in Korean history. Her story is a reminder that leadership can manifest in many forms, that wisdom and courage are not bound by gender, and that the actions of one remarkable individual can indeed echo through centuries, shaping the destiny of a nation. May your own path through the night be peaceful, and your dreams filled with the quiet strength and far-sighted wisdom of Silla's astute and enduring queen. High end of script, sweet dreams.